Every great story relies on a familiar cast of characters. You have the righteous heroes defending what is good, the oppressive villains causing the suffering, and the helpless bystanders caught in the middle. In first-century Israel, that cast seemed permanently set. The religious insiders, the Pharisees and Torah scholars, were the clear heroes. The occupying Roman military forces were the villains, and the vulnerable, impoverished crowds were the helpless victims. But immediately after delivering the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus walks down into those crowds and scrambles every single one of those roles. To see exactly who Jesus is, we have to examine 3 back-to-back encounters that establish who actually participates in the kingdom of God. The first person to approach Jesus is the ultimate villain of the era, a Roman centurion. He's a Gentile outsider and a commanding officer of the occupying army that most Jewish citizens feared and deeply resented. Yet, this specific centurion behaves completely out of character. He is deeply concerned about the welfare of a sick servant, someone legally considered mere property at the time. And the local Jewish elders even vouch for him, pointing out that he funded the construction of their local synagogue in Capernaum. When asking Jesus to heal his servant, the centurion refuses to approach directly. He sends intermediaries with a message that he doesn't consider himself worthy to stand before Jesus, nor is his house worthy for Jesus to enter. This flowchart illustrates the centurion's logic. As a military officer, he operates within a strict chain of command. He understands authority flows top-down. An order is executed independent of his physical presence. He applies this diagram to Jesus' divine authority. The spoken word itself carries all necessary authority to heal the servant. Jesus is astonished. He heals the servant remotely and turns to the crowd, stating that he has not found faith like this anywhere in all of Israel. The story's presumed villain, a man with no formal religious connection to the covenant, demonstrates the most precise theological understanding of Jesus' power. Soon after, Jesus travels through the Jezreel Valley to the gates of the town of Nain. At the threshold of the city, 2 crowds collide. One crowd is following the living Jesus. The other is a funeral procession carrying a dead young man out to the burial grounds. The deceased is the only son of a widowed mother. In first-century Palestinian society, a woman's economic survival depended entirely on her male relatives. With no husband and now no son, this grieving woman is abruptly losing her very last source of security. She faces a future of absolute poverty and dependence on charity. This widow sends no messengers. She articulates no theological statement. She doesn't even ask. But Jesus sees her grief, and he experiences a visceral, gut-level physical response of compassion. He steps forward and touches the open stretcher, a ritually unclean object. Instead of contamination traveling to Jesus, life travels to the dead man. The boy miraculously sits up, and with incredible gentleness, Jesus restores the young man to his grieving mother. The helpless bystander receives the kingdom's generosity. She didn't have to prove her worthiness or speak a single word of faith to receive unmerited grace. We then shift to a dark prison cell. Inside is John the Baptist, the ultimate religious insider. He is the heroic prophet who spent his life preparing the way for the Messiah. Yet from that cell, John sends his disciples to Jesus with a shocking question. Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else? To understand his doubt, we can look at this checklist of John's messianic expectations. John preached a Messiah of urgency and judgment. He anticipated the axe at the root, the winnowing fork, and the fire of judgment. But instead, Jesus is healing lepers, loving enemies, and eating with sinners. John's perfect theological categories are breaking down under reality. Jesus doesn't offer a simple yes or no. Instead, he tells John's disciples to report exactly what they are seeing: the blind receiving sight, the lame walking, the deaf hearing, and instructs John to measure those specific acts against the ancient prophecies of Isaiah. The great hero struggles to comprehend the story he is standing in. Jesus places the burden of recognition entirely back on John, challenging him to accept a Messiah who refuses to conform to his expectations. Jesus brings these 3 encounters together with a surprising declaration. He affirms that John is the greatest prophet of the Old Covenant era. But then he adds that the absolute least citizen in this newly arriving kingdom is greater than John. The Gentile soldier and the grieving widow, those who expected nothing, are responding to Jesus with faith and wonder. Meanwhile, the religious insiders who spent centuries preparing for this moment are the ones struggling to see clearly. The kingdom of God consistently arrives where it is least expected and is missed by those who are most sure they are ready for it. The question then falls to the viewer. Will you accept the Messiah as he actually is, or will you stumble because he isn't who you expected him to be? This tension is about to explode at a Pharisee's dinner party. A scandalous woman will walk in off the street, creating the perfect stage for a short story about two debtors, a story that exposes the true connection between forgiveness and love.